Hello, and welcome back to another episode. Today I'm diving back into Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on the Nintendo Switch because I simply had to, I suppose, share with you some of my ongoing thoughts about the game. It continues to be a joy revisiting Koholint Island. I've now visited all the dungeons. I'm actually up to the last dungeon now, Turtle Rock, and I'm about halfway through that one. I've even actually been able to visit the Color Dungeon, spelt incorrectly, I might add, Color. But that's the first time I've actually played that dungeon because I never played the DX version of this game on the Game Boy Color, and that was interesting. It was interesting to experience it on a full color console, in so much as obviously the Game Boy Color was a full color console, but for me it was no novelty to see the game running in color, and so I wonder if part of the gimmick was slightly lost on me during that playthrough. It was an interesting use of colour. It was also interesting as well to note that the red and blue elements of the puzzles in that dungeon were denoted by shapes as well. So I think, from memory, I think red was square, blue was circle, and there might have been a yellow triangle in there somewhere as well. But the point is that it was catering for people who may well be colourblind. I believe red and blue, red and green, these are sort of colours that can be a bit difficult to differentiate for some people. And so it was interesting to sort of to see those concerns played out on a console whose gimmick is not that it's in colour. It's what I mean. This console is all about switching. It's about being portable and having the ability to play such high quality games portably. So that was interesting, and I wonder whether I missed something in that experience because of it. So at some point, I may well have to go back and play the original director's cut, and actually I think on a Game Boy Color as well, because I think playing that game on the 3DS via the downloadable by the store might have done it a bit of a gameplay disservice. I think I might have been missing out on something if I had managed to do that. So there's little things like that. The Color Dungeon has rendered us with a special new costume. We could choose between red or blue mail, as in chainmail, and I went with blue for defensive because it felt like once you get the Koholint sword and the mirror shield, what you really need is a defensive edge, not necessarily an attacking edge, or attacking stat boost with the red mail. My lovely wife has, in her own words, been enthralled by my response to playing this game. She's been watching me sort of grinning like an idiot and actually actively remembering things. For example, remembering how frustrating it is to constantly get that piece of power message, and yet she, for example, is always reminding me, "Oh, you need to pick up the piece of power because it's a boost, isn't it? It helps you." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's okay." But you have to stop what you're doing and you have to go through the rigmarole of reading the message. And it's only a couple of lines, but the fact that those lines don't go away is one of the niggles and one of the joys of playing the Game Boy game that I remembered with increasing frustration. But other aspects of the game, I've been delighting in recalling. For example, the walrus that Marin sings to, the way that the magnifying glass helps you. I'm trying not to be too specific because I don't want to really spoil things per se for people who want to play this game for the first time. But I think in particular it's been visiting all the different aspects of the island that I've been really enjoying. as I said in the first initial sort of opening and uh, unboxing of the game and then playing it for the first time, this has felt like revisiting an old haunt of mine. This is more than just a holiday island for me. This was an alternate reality for me as a kid, and seeing it rendered like this, and to a certain extent rendered kind of in a way that I sort of imagined it to be. I always wondered what do those green dots look like, if you know what I mean. What does the rock and the grass and for example these skulls and things, how does that transition feel? And here we are seeing it play out. Now I have had a chance to see some people's comments on the graphics for the game, specifically along the lines that they think that actually in places it's too respectful of the game's aesthetic. For example, I think Arlo commented that the bones here, for example, in the desert, are too odd. You know, they're too sort of Game Boy-y. There's put these bone assets here and here, precisely where they were in the Game Boy version. But I think you can't have it both ways. You can't have a game that is in the spirit of Link's Awakening and throws out the art style, but keep the charm that this layout has brought with it. I think Nintendo have walked a very fine line here. Another complaint, for example, that Arlo made was about the sheen on the trees there. But that was something that I specifically picked up on and very much have appreciated throughout this gameplay experience, is the fact that you are in that sense encouraged to feel as though you are playing with toys, as it were, in a whimsical environment, in an environment that is dreamlike for very good reasons. It fits in with the story, it fits in thematically, it fits in with some of the oddities of the game and some of the weird little characters that you bump into. And it also takes it takes its time in the right places, and it takes seriously those things that need to be taken seriously. There's a point in the game where I remember on Game Boy always being very touched by the plight of a certain ghost who asks you, take me back to my house. And if you haven't come across the house yet, then you have to explore and try and find it. And the ghost, I remember the fact that it follows you around, the fact that it wails every now and then, my home, take me to my home, is really solemn and somber and sobering. Lots of S words, seemingly. And it was really interesting to see my wife's reaction to that, because she didn't know what was going on, she didn't know what was coming in that sense. I remembered, or re-remembered, as it happened. And she was very, very touched by that experience of going to the ghost's house, and the little implication of a story there that didn't have to be there. It absolutely did not have to be in this game. But it's the fact that you feel as though lives have been lived on this island, despite the toy aesthetic. You feel as though, therefore, your impact on the island and on the integrity of this place as its own little reality has weight. You know, you're not just risking the well-being of people who you get to know, for example, in Mabe Village, but you are risking the legacy of the people who have come before. Actually, before we go into Mabe Village, let's have a look in here. People who have come before, people who have lived their lives, people who have monuments and who have loved ones who remember them living on the island. It's just another reason that I was so invested in this game as a kid, and why I love it. Basically, so on the first video, there was a comment where it's essentially the question was, are you going to record more footage on the island? And part of me didn't necessarily want to, because I don't really feel as though I've got that much more to say beyond repeating myself like a blithering idiot. This island's very important to me. I like the art style. The music is excellent, so on and so forth. But I think it's nice to be able to report back to you guys that my experience of playing this game now and sharing such an important space, such an important island, such an important experience with now, the woman I love, with my wife, has been very rewarding. And it's also been really interesting as well to see. And therefore, thank you for the nudging me. Thank you for asking for a bit of extra footage, because actually this has been a worthwhile experience to record. But it's also been really interesting to see her reaction to those things in this game that have great grandchildren, as it were, in Breath of the Wild. So monsters like the Hinox, aspects such as how you warp around the game. Even for example, it occurred to me that this game has an ocarina in it. For example, the fact that she's heard about Ocarina of Time, and no, it's not Ocarina of Time, Ocarina of Time, and the fact that she can see that there's these little breadcrumbs that more and more of the Zelda games were drawing on over time, has been really interesting to see that. And so she's been, on the one hand, a bit disappointed by elements of the game, because this game doesn't have the physics of Breath of the Wild. It doesn't have the interplay with the weather or fire or gravity or magnetism, this kind of thing, that Breath of the Wild has. But she's been able to, and say, this is the ghost's house, by the way. It's a wonderful little house. And now, because of all the extra details, you get little extra bits of the personality. Glasses on the sideboard there, a map and a compass. This person was an explorer, seemingly. Some pictures on the side. It's gorgeous, just gorgeous. So seeing her understand that and now have a bit of a sense of, first of all, why Breath of the Wild is such a big step for the series. Because really, she's never really watched someone play Zelda before she watched me play Breath of the Wild and then get really invested in it. Now basically we play Breath of the Wild together. I'll be sort of exploring and she'll say, go over there, do this, do that. Is that a Korok? And she's really into finding the Koroks, especially. But the fact that and it's really hard for me actually to really fully appreciate, because obviously I've seen this develop over time. But things like the use of hearts, the way that hearts are hidden in bushes in Zelda. Well, of course they are. But for her, the heart-shaped radish is the connection. So she's thinking, oh, that's where the heart-shaped radish came from. For me, the beauty of Breath of the Wild was the fact that it rationalizes some of the weirder things in the Zelda series, such as the heart shapes being in bushes, as being things like heart-shaped radishes. The fact that Breath of the Wild expands on the idea of just finding rupees out in the landscape and turns that into finding gemstones, which can be traded for rupees. For some people, that was probably unnecessary. I definitely still see and hear comments online of people saying, "Oh, I much prefer the purer Zelda experience." But for me, for us, it's been really interesting comparing and contrasting, and for me, seeing her appreciate where all those things have come from. Things like the moblins, the use of music and musical themes as well. So now she understands why, compared to say this game, why Breath of the Wild feels so empty and desolate, and as though a 100-year-old crisis has unfolded because of the music being so minimal, and themes, for example, in and around the Temple of Time in that game being deconstructed. for a game that or a series that has historically relied so heavily on musical themes, Breath of the Wild is making a decision, a very careful decision. Something that she has also commented on was the apples, and this was very interesting as well. Was apples in trees. Obviously, in Breath of the Wild, apples are one of the first and earliest ways that you can replenish your life up on the plateau. And here, when I saw the apples in the trees, I just presumed that, well, they're going to be decorative. I wasn't expecting to be able to eat them, because this is the remake of the Game Boy game. But in subtle little ways, they've mapped some of this stuff back through the series and into the game. So, for example, when you get the Pegasus boots, you're able to pick up apples and eat them, and it does replenish your heart. So I've just been hit by a spear there, and I've refilled my heart by eating an apple. That was wonderful, and a wonderful way in which actually my bias as having such a clear and strong and specific notion of what this game is from the many times that I've completed it on Game Boy, was challenged by playing with someone and playing in the presence of someone who has only ever seen Breath of the Wild. So for her, of course, apples in the trees, they replenish your hearts. What else would they do? That was a wonderful moment as well. She's also really loving the one of the other things. Well, is the lineage of, for example, the Octoroks, because obviously in Breath of the Wild, Octoroks are just uncannily accurate. They're really annoying. She gets really passionate about bloody Octoroks kind of thing, and the fact that in this game they are a little easier, but also you can see why they are where their lineage has come from. The fact that they are actually also awkward in their own way, and how it is that here you go, piece of power. You're going to be able to fire new. There you go. And how it is that actually in Breath of the Wild, I'm not quite so annoyed by them as she is, because I spent my entire childhood being harassed by Octoroks. That's what they do. So I think that really is the real value of me commenting on this video on this video game again and making this video, is just to reflect on how not only have I continued to be charmed and warmly welcomed by this world back into its embrace, but I've also really enjoyed seeing the game through her eyes. And I suspect if we ever have a kid, if we're ever lucky enough to have a kid, that I will definitely, but also I think in many ways both of us, for different reasons, will very much benefit from seeing other things through through that person's eyes, through those eyes. That's been the most rewarding element here, and in so many ways there are various ways in which my lovely wife has been rewarding in a very similar way. When we revisit treasured Lego models, or when we examine films that we love and that we want to share with each other. We're both augmenting each other's lives. And so I don't mean to go off on one about my lovely wife, but we are, and it's so nice to be able to share this with her, because ultimately on the Game Boy player it's just not quite the same. She's never going to be able to see Breath of the Wild and then go back to the original on Game Boy and hear that dinky music and the very different graphic style without it being irritating. She's never been a fan of chiptune or 8-bit music, because she didn't really, she's got no emotional attachment to it. So thank you, Nintendo, I guess is what I'd say. But not thank you for Mario Kart Tour though. I don't know if any of you guys have tried Mario Kart Tour yet, but I'm less than impressed, shall we say. Have to pay to play as Mario? ridiculous, ridiculous. But I suspect that that's not down to Aonuma and Shigeru Miyamoto himself. Then again, he was involved in, was it Mario Run or whatever, the Mario app. So who knows? Oh, see, look. You got the Guardian Acorn. It will reduce the damage you take by half. It's a small thing, but when you're trying to get from place to place and you accidentally pick one of those things up, it can be very annoying. So as I'm playing this, I'm being reminded that not everyone has played the game as often as I have. So I'm not wanting to. I don't want to spoil anything. I don't want to destroy other people's opportunity to explore and enjoy this game. So hopefully that's not too disappointing from a gameplay perspective. In some ways, I'm deliberately just wandering around. But something that I do want to share is the raft experience. I always used to love having a go at the rafts. A visit to the rapids, or over and over again, visiting the rapids was a lot of fun. In the back of the car, you know, on the way to visit family and friends and whatever, because I always tried to get better at it, but I never felt as though I really mastered the rapids routes. And in this instance, I feel as though I'm having to completely relearn everything about rapid racing. But it's been very satisfying to take some time out from questing to play the Rapid Shop Owner's game. Now, in this instance, I also have only just been again re-remembering elements of the rapids. For example, the use of things like the hook shot. Jumping is kind of obvious because there are certain points on the rapids that there are items, for example, like rupees there hovering above you, so you can jump up to get them by jumping off the raft. But that also speeds up the raft as well, which can be a bit annoying at times, shall we say. So I wanted to get over there, but I couldn't. But I know I missed the rupees. Okay, so now the next best thing I can do is try and get up to the top there. Don't go down. Don't go down. That's it. So avoid the temptation of those rupees. There we go. Yes. And now go down here and in. Yep. Oh, no! Oh. I think I'm finding these rapids more challenging though than the original Game Boy ones, because the direction of the water is not as obvious. It was much more obvious when it's just green lines moving on a dot matrix screen. In this version, you have to really watch the water. And that was an okay run. Should we go again? Let's try one more time. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I get it. Which course will you be setting today? Rapids 3, please, thank you. Okay. And I guess that's one element of this game that I'm yet to really try, is the portability. I haven't played this game yet in undocked mode, and so I'm curious. Oh, that was a bad decision. That was a bad decision. I'm curious to play it in portable and see if it's as much fun to play, for example, Rapids when I'm out and about. The thing is, now as a grown-up, I'm more often than not driving, or I have somewhere to be when I'm out and about, and so really getting into the rapids in the same way that I used to isn't really possible. It's not really doable. But that's fine. That's fine. I just love that it's. Again, I think what I'm really loving is I can share this with my wife, basically. And there we have it. That was a terrible run. terrible run. No, I don't want another go. Let's go down here. Oh, no, it's a dead end. Let's go down here. There we go. And so I think really that's kind of where this game's value has come from for me. Beyond the obvious and the initial glory of the nostalgia and the fact that the game is so faithful. As I say, I don't agree with those people who are complaining about it being too similar to the Game Boy game. Well, that's all I wanted, really, in that sense. Was a Game Boy game that had less of the problems, and one of those problems being, for example, button mapping, and the fact that now you have always a sword on the B button, the Pegasus boots on the L shoulder, and the shield on the right shoulder. It means that you can swap out other buttons for example, the hook shot and the feather. That's wonderful. That's wonderful. And the fact that beyond that, I've been able to discover this whole other layer of bringing I suppose bringing the legacy of Zelda, in that sense, to life a little bit more for my wife, and for the conversations that we can have, for the realization that she can have about what she's seeing when we're playing Breath of the Wild has been almost immeasurably priceless. It's been wonderful. So with that in mind, I guess, thank you guys for watching. I continue to recommend this game, but I'm also minded not to say spoil too much in terms of specifics about plots or what happens next compared to where I'm up to. That's why I'm really avoiding the mountains. But hopefully you've enjoyed this, and as ever, until next time, do take care. Bye bye.